Our mandarin tree is really prolific at the moment, and that gives us the perfect opportunity to do this year's batch of mandarin fermented sodas. And it's one that we always like doing when our own mandarins are in season. There's two different flavours that we're going to do. There's the straight up mandarin, but we're also going to do a mandarin creamsicle sort of flavour, which is where you pair the mandarin with a bit of vanilla flavour. So we're going to use vanilla extract for that today. The base of all this is this one here, our gingerbug, which is beautiful and bubbly at the moment. If I kind of move that around, you can probably see all those wonderful bubbles in the gingerbug. That is nice and active, and that's going to be the starter for our fermented soda. G'day there, it's Rachel here from Bush Edge Homesteading Australia, and I've just done a bit of a pick outside of a few mandarins just to make up a really quick latest batch of mandarin fermented soda. This is one of the best flavours when all the citrus is in season. It is really delicious when you do just the plain mandarin, but also when you pair it with a bit of vanilla as well, which makes this wonderful mandarin creamsicle sort of flavour. It is definitely a bit of a family favourite. Another really good one at this time of the year as well, when the citrus is really abundant, is lime, and I have shared that one previously on the channel. But today I want to show you the mandarin, because all I've done previously is I've showed you this one in shorts, and I didn't really go through quantities. But in saying that, as you probably saw if you did watch that lime fermented soda video, I can be a little fluid with some of the quantities. I do have a fermented soda series on this channel, which is to help people get started. That does have some specific quantities on it, because I find that is really handy when you're building up that confidence, and also when you've got those ratios in those particular recipes. It does help you get quite good success. But once you really get started with your fermented sodas, you can play around a little bit, and it does largely come down to the flavours that you like. Using a nice active gingerbug to really get it going and fermenting, which is what gets all that lactobacillus bacteria going, and there's also a bit of yeast as well. And obviously adding sugar, because that's what that bacteria and yeast eat, and that's what creates the bubbles, the carbonation that makes your fermented soda all nice and bubbly. So what we're going to do today is just put this one together. It is nice and quick. I am going to focus in on just this recipe rather than all those principles of making fermented sodas. But if this is completely new to you and you haven't seen that other series, I do recommend checking that out, and that will help get you started with firstly a gingerbug starter like I have behind me here, and also on some pretty fail-safe kind of recipes to get you going. All right, let's get into the mandarin. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just chop these mandarins. I'm just going to chop them in half, because these mandarins are really quite soft. I don't need to use a juicer or anything. I can actually just squeeze these straight into the bottles. So I'm just going to chop them in half to enable that. My plan is to use 3 of these mandarins for each of these bottles. You're probably noting they are pretty small. We got lots of mandarins on our tree this year, but we didn't get big ones like we did last year. It's quite interesting seeing that same tree and the differences in the crops that we get. Now that I've chopped them, all I'm going to do is just squeeze those straight into the bottle. And as I said, I'm going to do 3 of these mandarins in each one. You don't have to use 3 though, so this is where that flexibility comes in. If you want to add more and get a stronger mandarin flavour, you can absolutely do that. In fact, I'm pretty sure if you did just mandarin juice, you could probably even get away with that too. You're probably noting I'm using a little strainer here, and that's just to get some of the little bits of the fibres from the mandarin out, so you don't end up with those chunky bits in the bottle. If you don't have a fine strainer and you ended up with some of those bits in there, it's not the end of the world, it's just a textural thing. So I'm just going to keep squeezing these until I've got 3 in each of these bottles. That's our mandarins all juiced, and you can see in there those little bits of mandarin that would have ended up in that bottle if I had squeezed it straight in. So that's why I use that filter. I'm going to pop that aside for a second. And in terms of the flavours, as I said, I'm going to do 2 different ones. There's going to be a straight up mandarin, and also that Mandarin creamsicle flavour. Like if you've had any icy poles and stuff where they call it orange creamsicle, it's kind of that type of flavour. It is really delicious. What I'm going to do is 2 of these in that creamsicle style, and that means I need to add in a little bit of our vanilla extract. That one there is a vanilla extract we made ourselves. If you haven't made vanilla extract before, it is an incredible thing to do yourself. It's really, really easy. The hardest thing is just being really patient because you actually need a little bit of time. This is a batch that we bottled up together in one of our video shares, and yeah, looking forward to using it with you guys today. Now, I have been using a fair bit of it, and I will say it is a very delicious one. If you do want to learn about making extract or anything like that, do check out those other videos on the channel too. All right. In terms of a quantity, when you're adding your vanilla extract, it's tempting to add a lot when you're doing a fermented soda just to get a really intense flavour. But I have found if you add too much, it does seem to inhibit the fermentation a little bit. And I found if I use a sensible amount, it doesn't affect it too much. But yeah, when I have had circumstances where we've over poured in the past, it definitely has slowed things down a bit. So with this, I'm just going to give a bit of a slug in each one there. I probably should be giving you a proper amount. It's probably somewhere along the lines of a tablespoon, maybe just over. I'm going to add a tiny little bit more than that. Oop, don't want to spill it. And I am going to cap that so we don't lose any of our precious vanilla. So that's these 2 here that have the vanilla. I might actually just mark those bottles. I'm going to use the chalk marker just to mark these. With these ones, I'm just going to put a little V just to denote that that one there has the vanilla in it as well. Being a chalk pen, I can just scrub that off. I've been wanting these for ages, and hubby managed to find some for me the other day at Officeworks, so they're going to be great for marking my jars as well. Next, I want to add in some of the gingerbug, and the gingerbug is that starter that's going to really get this going. And yeah, again, lots of beautiful activity in here at the moment, and that's what you want to see ideally when you go to start off your fermented sodas. But in saying that, sometimes you do get the gingerbugs not being as active as that, and they build up the activity in the bottle if you give it all the right ingredients in there. So don't stress too much if yours isn't as active as that. I've definitely used mine when I've pulled it out of the fridge and it hasn't been quite as active as this, but I have had this out of the fridge a couple of days. I've been feeding it over those couple of days, and that's why it's looking the way it is today. Now, it is really full. I did want to top this up because I did want a fair bit of liquid in here for today. And yeah, I had added a fair bit of ginger because I had a piece that I needed to use up. I obviously don't want this ginger going into the bottles. So this is, again, where this strainer is going to come in handy. But I do want to get rid of the little bits from here first because I do want to recover the bits of ginger that come out of here. As part of the fermented soda series that we have, it talks a little bit about some of the uses for that used ginger that you have from your ginger bugs. So yeah, definitely don't let it go to waste. But I don't want it contaminated with mandarin, so let's get rid of that. Quantity-wise, when it comes to adding the ginger bug, normally you're looking at about 1/4 cup of the ginger bug liquid to every litre of your soda base. Now, I'm not going to measure, and often I just free pour like I'm going to do today, and often I pour more. And if you do that, that is perfectly fine. It's not going to affect anything except for usually adds a little bit more ginger flavour into your sodas, and I don't mind that. So I'm going to pop that ginger there just to the side, and I probably do need to pull a little bit more ginger out of there as well. It is starting to get probably a little bit too full for my liking. So I will do that after I finish putting this together as well. But for now, I'll just pop the cap on. When it comes to refreshing it, again, we cover that in the fermented soda series, so I'll let you follow up on that one if you are a new starter. But to keep moving for those that have done this before, we've got our flavours in there now, we've got our gingerbug in there, and now what we need to do is to get in the sugar and the water. Quantity-wise for our sugar, with this sort of size bottle, it's normally probably around maybe 1/4 cup that I would put in there of sugar. It's probably just over 500 ml, I think, with these ones here. The normal ratio, in fact, I've got it over here. Let me get the book for you. The normal ratio when we're doing fruit sodas is about 1 cup of sugar to every 2 litres of water. So 1/2 cup to 1 litre, 1/4 cup for our 500 or so mils. Remembering that we did add in juice, and that mandarin juice also has some sugar. So that's going to add to that fermentable sugar that the bacteria and yeast can eat as well. In fact, my experience with mandarin sodas, they are super active. And yeah, if you did see the short that we shared, I think it was last year or the year before when we did a batch, that one just flowed out of the bottle. And yeah, I think it's just because we're using a raw fruit. There's a bit of yeast and the like that comes when you use raw fruit. And this particular fruit seems to be a nice active one. So here's my sugar. We are going to use raw sugar today. You can use white sugar, you can use honey, basically any sugar that is a fermentable sugar. So pretty much anything that's not a processed artificial sweetener is going to do the trick. So there is our 1/4 cup of sugar. And yes, it does look like a fair bit for a bottle of this size, but remember, that's the food for the bacteria and yeast. They are going to consume a lot of that. Now, I'm not going to put that sugar straight into these bottles, and that's because at that ratio, it's not going to dissolve particularly well. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of hot water to this. And I'm doing it in this container on purpose. And I'm just going to give that a little bit of a stir, just to help that start dissolving. I don't want to put the hot water in here though, because I've already added my starter. That could potentially kill all that bacteria and yeast. That's why I'm doing it over here, just until it dissolves. And then I'll add a little bit more water in here, just to cool that down a little bit. That's now topped up with a little bit more water. And that is a non-chlorinated water. That's out of the water tank, that one. You don't want to have chlorine and things because that can affect your ferment. And that's going to go straight in. You can see I've filled it to about here, so I've got a little bit of space in the top, and that'll just allow for a little bit of that carbonation to build up. Now all I'm going to do is cap that. I'm going to just mix it a bit. And sit that on the bench. And then I'm just going to top these ones up. Same thing again, 1/4 cup of the sugar, bit of warm water first, cool water, and then I'll cap those as well. The fermented sodas will sit here on the bench over the next few days. It is a bit of a colder time of the year at the moment, so I may need to put them next to the fire. That is a little trick that I do sometimes when it gets a bit cold and wintry around here. I don't get them too close because I don't want it to be hot, but I do want them to get nice and warm. It's just not getting that warm in the house at this time of year. I have also now refreshed my gingerbug. It's sitting here, it's got some fresh water, freshly fed. I'm going to leave it out on the bench overnight, and that'll just get it reconsuming some of that sugar, getting nice and healthy and active again, and then I'll pop it in the fridge to rest. So from here, I'll just check in each day, show you how the ferment is going, and then we'll open it up together when it's ready. It's the next day, and it is a little bit cold today, which is why I've got the fire going. And I did move the fermented sodas over here. So with this fire here on the side of it, it's not particularly hot. there's not a lot of radiant heat that comes off of it, but the air around the fire here is nice and warm, so these are not hot in any way, but it is a bit of a warmer spot in the house. Now, in terms of pressure build-up, if I give these a little bit of a squeeze, I can already feel quite a bit of pressure has built up in these. There's still a bit of flex. Let me see if I can get your side on. So you can see, if I squeeze in, there is still a little bit of flex in the bottles, but that is an awful lot firmer than it was yesterday. All right, let's test this one here. So this was the one that was just straight up Mandarin. And that feels pretty similar to those ones with the vanilla in as well. So I will just move those back again a little bit. I'll leave them sit, and I will definitely check again tomorrow. I have had some fermented Mandarin sodas that have been ready on that 24-hour mark. These ones are definitely not quite there yet, but it is something just to look out for, because you don't want exploding bottles with too much pressure building up. And these ones, as I said yesterday, can be super active. All right, we'll check in again tomorrow. It's another cool day. These are by the fire again, and that is feeling really, really firm now. So that means we've got a lot of that pressure built up in the bottle, and that means the liquid will be carbonating. Now this one here I've got a bit of a problem with. Not sure if you can see on the lid here. That lid is actually almost kind of looks a little split. And if I squeeze it, can you hear that sound? That's the sound of the gas expelling. Kind of see, I can squeeze that right in. That means I'm not getting the carbonation building up in this bottle. I think I need to retire that cap. That one is cactus. But that one there, that's really firm as well. In fact, to the point that those two are probably drinkable right now. There'll still be quite a bit of sugar there though. So if I do drink them, they're going to taste like a nice soft drink, nice and sweet. But if I want them to ferment a little bit further, what I'll do is just crack these lids, let it degas a little bit. So basically you're just kind of burping it a bit. I'll put the lids back on and I'll let them continue to ferment and carbonate further. These have been fermenting over the last 4 days now, and I have been burping them because they have been building up quite a bit of pressure. What I reckon we do is vanilla, Mandy. All right, we're just going to go the straight up Mandarin. Okay, so that's our Mandarin, and my youngest, you want to come over and crack this one with me, don't you?
Yeah. Do we grab a bowl out for it?
Ah, that's actually not a bad idea, although... So what he's referring to is normally what we do is we grab a bowl, especially when we're inside, pop it in the bowl, and that way if it overflows, it goes into the bowl. Now, because I've been burping this, I'm suspecting we don't actually need the bowl today, so...
Keep it there just in case.
Just in case. That's probably not a bad idea. All right, let's open it up. Yeah, I didn't think this one was... Oh, maybe. Hang on. I spoke too soon. You're a genius. Thank you for suggesting the bowl.
It did spill a little, but honestly, kind of good. And see, look at that. If we bring... Oh, you guys can actually see it. If you see around it, there's actually quite a lot that overflew. So... it's actually quite good to just have it just in case, because, I mean, would you rather have extra to drink or it going everywhere and having to clean it all up?
I'm very appreciative you reminded me for the bowl. Okay, and here I was thinking, because I burped it, I had saved us from that, but that was not the case. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to pour some of these in these jars.
In the cups?
In the cups. I'm losing it completely now. It's been a long day. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to put some in our cups. We're going to give it a go, but as I'm sure you can already see, we definitely had some good carbonation with this one. Let's pour it in. Hopefully no more messes. And there we go.
It's like ASMR.
Alrighty, let's give it a crack, hey? Cheers. Cheers.
It has a very nice citrusy flavour to it.
I love the Mandarin one. It's got a beautiful flavour to it, doesn't it?
A lot of people don't like fermented drinks, but I love them, and this just tastes awesome. It sort of reminds me of kombucha in a way.
It does a little bit. But because with the fermented sodas, we leave a lot more sugar in it, it does taste much, much sweeter than when you do a kombucha, because with the kombuchas, they do try and get rid of a lot of those sugars. It's a lot drier, but yeah, this still has a beautiful sweet soda sort of flavour, doesn't it?
Yeah. And if you look at the bottom of the glass, you might be able to see a few chunks of mandarin floating around. That's when you know it's good mandarin. It sort of reminds me of the Bundaberg, how they've got the bits of ginger floating around. So
yeah, that's how you know like it's a proper fermented drink that's made with proper fruit and stuff. I reckon we should leave it there and enjoy our drinks. It looks like you just about polished that one off already. And hopefully you enjoyed hearing how to make a mandarin soda yourself. We've still got the yummy Mandarin creamsicle one to go to.
oh yeah, I'm very excited for that.
But what we're going to do is we're going to pop that one in the fridge now. That just slows down the fermentation, and that means we can enjoy that over the weekend.
Yeah.
Alrighty. As always, hopefully you enjoyed following along. Hopefully this helps you give it a go if this is something you want to have a go of. And remember, we do have some other videos on the channel if you haven't done fermented sodas before and want to know how you can do something like this too. Catch you later.